We are really excited to have Emma Sijuwade with us this afternoon. I'm going to welcome Emma to the stage. Let's promote her as a panelist. Let's get her up onto the stage. Here we go. Emma Sijuwade is a social media marketing expert and MBA graduate. She's the founder of the purpose-driven agency Shareable and the global platform Vibes of a Black Girl. Emma has a trackable record of creating successful social campaigns for the likes of the Church of England, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Thy Kingdom Come, Everyday Church Online, SAT 7, and Maiwa and River Song, Speak Life, and more. It's such a treat to be able to have Emma back with us. She was a speaker last year at Stronger 2021, and it's such a pleasure to spend a bit of time with her today to interview her and find out more about what she's learning about and what she's thinking about when it comes to social media in 2022. Emma, welcome to the stage.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I feel really honoured to be back again.
Oh, Emma, really good to see you. And we're extra grateful because you are actually on holiday at the moment. You're on some vacation, so you've managed to squeeze us in. Thank you, so much for giving us some time today. Emma, tell us a bit about what you do. What does running Shareable look like? I mean, you have multiple hats on, but maybe just thinking specifically about Shareable. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I previously used to work at Premier Christian Radio in the digital marketing team. But then I want to say 2 years now, I decided that I wanted to step out on my own and kind of just work more closely with clients and churches, specifically with social media. As at Premier, I was doing everything from email to banner advertising, so kind of like the whole digital, but then I wanted to just focus on social media. So I run a social media agency that specifically now works with churches and charities, helping them get good at social media. So anything from social media strategy, content creation, scheduling, all that great stuff. So we basically take care of all these churches and Christian organizations' social media, so they don't have to worry about that aspect of their digital marketing, which is really good. I love it.
It's so good just to see the impact that you're having and the reach that you're having. And now where I don't think I'm saying it right. It's Shareable, isn't it? Shareable, where would people find Shareable?
So we're on across all social media, so Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and that is at Shareable Media. And then you can go on our website, which is just shareable.com, and then you'll find everything there as well.
It's great stuff. And tell us a little bit about your heart, your vision behind the different things that you're doing. You carry such a passion and skill and expertise in these areas in marketing, social media management, and more. What's your hope? What's your heart?
Honestly, I feel like for starters, it's for people to actually use social media with purpose and to actually understand that, yes, social media can be seen as quite a negative place sometimes, but you can use these platforms for good and to actually spread a positive message. So that's kind of the main, I guess, ethos of my organization, my agency. But overall, it's really just to get the gospel of Christ shared out to as many people as possible. I'm a huge believer in that, if the disciples were around, they'd probably be using social media as a tool because it's quick, it's efficient, and you can reach so many people in such a short space of time. So it's really just to get people to know more about the gospel and the love of Jesus Christ, really.
You've got some fans already in the chat. Becca's saying, "Yay, really excited about this session," and it really is. We're really excited just to tap your brains, really pick your brains and hear from your perspective some of the things that you will be thinking about when it comes to social media in 2022. But before that, I'd love to for us to look back at the development of social media in the church. Thinking about more broadly, are there ways in which thinking broadly, before we get particularly into, you know, the trends in the church, thinking more broadly, how has social media changed over the decades? Thinking about the 2000s, the 2010s, and then the 2020s, early parts of. Tell us, what have been the trends? What have been the main themes?
Yeah, I think, you know what, I do believe that social media is still relatively quite new, and we're still kind of in that transformational like process and part of it. So, you know, things are changing very, very, very quickly. And sometimes it's really hard to keep up, even as someone who is in this, you know, industry. So I can't imagine what it's like for churches specifically. But, you know, we've seen everything from just, you know, having posting, you know, everyday things with your family, you know, just posting because you want to, those kind of, you know, not really aesthetically pleasing content you'd see on Instagram back in the day, but now it's complete. It's done like a 180. You know, things are very curated now. They're very, you know, thought out. Things like Twitter, people would just tweet their random thoughts at the beginning of the stages, and now it's really again some, you know, really thought out content. And you know, these platforms were a lot, you know, easier to navigate around, I believe, you know, 10 years ago compared to what it is now. We're always adding new features, always adding new updates. But I think, you know, for the churches weren't really using, you know, social media back in, you know, 10 years ago. So I think it's very difficult. I'm not gonna lie to you, I do think it is tough to keep up with things, but you know, that's why you have people here that are, you know, especially like Stronger Network, there are people here that are telling you the tips and telling you the things that you need to know to be able to move forward with the trends. Because I do believe that if you aren't, you know, following up and you aren't on these platforms, you're 100% going to get left behind, because digital is not going anywhere, unfortunately. And the pandemic has kind of forced us now to pay attention to what is happening digitally as well. So, you know, social media for the church is still very in the early stages. I believe we're only just now starting to kind of like cross that barrier. But, you know, there's so much potential there. You know, so many churches and how they were able just to pick up in the pandemic, you know, with a live streaming, getting your content up at the right time, you know, so there is work to be done, but I do think that we can get there.
With the organizations that you've worked with and the churches that you work with, and you know, there's a lot of national campaigns that you've been involved in and beyond, and just love to know, are there particular challenges that you've seen across the board that, you know, that have applied, that you've noticed or observed in more than one organization, and what are the things you've noticed, and what can we learn from that?
Yeah, I think specifically with churches more than charities, I would say it's that kind of social media marketing jargon. So like things like engagement rate, or, you know, growth and things like that. I think churches aren't as comfortable with that, and it's quite challenging using that type of language. So, you know, with a lot of the organizations that I've worked with, we try to kind of strip it back. So instead of, you know, saying, you know, grow a large following, we'd say, you know, and talk to your community. So it's really about swapping out your language, specifically, I think, when it comes to social media, because it can be really daunting, and people do find that really challenging, because people are like, what is engagement? How do I do that? Or how do I talk to people? You know, so the language we use when we're communicating with churches is very important. I think that would be one of the main challenges. Also, I think people do spread themselves out too thin. They think they have to be, you know, on every single social media platform, where that's actually not the truth at all. You know, you can focus on Facebook if that's where most of your audience are, or if you know, if you're trying to reach youth, why not just focus on TikTok or Snapchat where they are? So it's really getting people to understand the fundamentals of each platform, the basics, and seeing which one that their church or charity or organization will benefit from being on, because it can be very scary thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to create content for 5 different platforms. So just understanding that go to where your audience is something that you know, I've noticed, and just trying to really stress the churches and charities as well.
Would you say that being proactive versus reactive is also a challenge, and a bit of a journey that organizations, churches have to go through, that they have to start thinking, okay, we need to start planning and our communication? Is that something that you've come across, and how can organizations navigate that?
Definitely. I think, back in the day, at least, churches are using their social media platforms more as like a bulletin. So this is what's happening on Sunday, this is what's happening on Saturday, not really actually giving value to their audience or their congregation throughout the week. It's not always sell, sell, sell. It's like, hey, how can you benefit me? So that has been something that has obviously been challenging, kind of get people to understand that it's not just social media, is not just for you to spread what's happening in your church. It's, to share the message of the gospel. And I think as well, with planning ahead, it's very, very important on social media, because things are always changing, but you do have to actually be reactive as well. So it is a mixture of the two, because obviously when national things happen, or, things out of the blue come up, you do have to react on social media. But, the way that I say that, combat that is definitely having some form of social media calendar, so you can kind of plan ahead, see what's coming up in the calendar, those kind of days that you need to create content for, and that's going to help churches a lot more. And I know that the Church of England do have a social media calendar that I think they put out every year, so it's got all the specific dates that churches do need, so you can actually download that and then just add your own extra dates to that as well. So
that's so helpful. And often what I've noticed with you, Emma, is that you have, just so many resources to point people to, yourself as well. You have that you offer, and it's just wonderful. And there's a good bunch of people in the room here. And if you guys, as you're watching, while we have Emma with us, feel free to get your questions posted in there. If you have any particular questions on particular platforms or things, we have an amazing expert here who gets the church landscape in terms of engaging with people across the UK and beyond. So Emma, what I'd love to do is find out about the particular distinctors of each platform. That's the one thing that I hadn't quite appreciated, is that each platform has a particular flavor, has a particular style. I just wonder whether you might be able to just give us some headlines on some of the main platforms, just so that we know that we're aiming in the right direction when we're using these platforms.
Definitely. I think I do want to start off by saying that, not, all these platforms are completely different. And on each platform, there is a different audience. So for example, a lot of churches, they will post the same thing at the same time across all their platforms. So, if it's a message, it would be across all the platforms. But, when you do that, you don't actually give your audience a reason to follow you. For example, on Twitter, if I'm going to see that post on Facebook, you don't really leave them with that FOMO feeling, which is what I like to call it. So you need to make sure that you're tailoring your content, if you are going to be across the platforms, specifically for each audience, because that's how you're going to actually build a relationship and build up rapport with your community. So starting off with Instagram, I would say is kind of very heavily millennial, Gen Z. It's very visual, but in the last maybe 2 years, a lot of content has actually started to become written on there, as people do actually really like to read content on Instagram, because it is kind of short form, it's digestible, rather than reading a blog. So it's a very visual platform. That's the main thing I'd say. It's all about visuals. It's the aesthetics is kind of slowly dying down at the moment. Just because, with things like TikTok, people are not caring as much about aesthetics. But if you're looking to target millennials, Gen Zs, and you have very visual content, definitely Instagram is great. LinkedIn is definitely more of, I'd say, the more professional platform out of the most. So if you do have more kind of articles, if you do have more kind of regular church updates, that you want to kind of get people on there, I would say LinkedIn is definitely really good for that. LinkedIn is actually on the rise, and there's actually now starting to be something called LinkedIn influencers. So LinkedIn is actually going to be one of the next big platforms for a lot of people to be actually getting on in 2022. Then obviously we've got Twitter, which I would say is more kind of like for very reactive content, up-to-date bulletin posts about what exactly is happening in your church right now. This is a great place where if you had an event, you'd want to live tweet, or if you were at something, then you'd want to share your immediate reaction. So very short form content as well, and it's very written. It's word based. So that's what I would say for that. For Facebook, I would say this is definitely an all-rounder platform. You can get away with images, you can get away with videos, you can get away with just general post copies. And it's the largest platform out of all these social media platforms. So I would say if you are going to ever be on a platform, you know, you're choosing your first ever one, I'd probably say go for Facebook, unless specifically you're trying to aim for a younger demographic, a younger audience. Then TikTok is the newest one to kind of the group, which is very, very short form content. That's all it is. It's short form video content. And the main focus on TikTok is entertainment and education. I would say those are the two top performing pieces of content that people love to digest on this platform, and it is heavily used by Gen Zers, and a lot of people now are starting to get onto it, but it's still like Gen Zers, and there's now 1 billion people on the platform, so it is actually nearly, you know, overtaking, I think it overtook Google in searches last year, so it is a platform that, you know, is worth exploring for sure. And then with YouTube, obviously that's more for long form content, in my opinion. So if you've got like long podcasts or things like that you'd want to share, even though you can do that on Instagram, people would actually prefer to watch it on YouTube. So long form video content for YouTube.
So, I mean, it's incredible, Emma. It really is, to get such a that, you know, all those insights. And just thinking about, I've heard you speak on Instagram a number of times now, and last year you spoke on engagement with Instagram and building your community. And love it if you give us a bit of an insight behind the scenes at your channel that you run on Instagram, Vibes of a Black Girl. And just wondered if you could talk us through what the aim of the channel is, what you do, what your experience has been, what have you learned through it as well? Because I know it's exploded, hasn't it, over the last year? Tell us about the journey.
Yeah, so in December 2019, I was kind of, obviously I just started Shareable, and I wanted just to create content really for something that I was passionate about, which was kind of the empowerment of Black women. Obviously being a Black woman myself, so it was content that I could easily create because it was technically related to me. So I just got on Canva really and just started creating graphics and putting my thoughts down in that type of form of content. And then it kind of just took a life of its own. I wasn't expecting that at all. And obviously other Black women, other people started to relate to the content that I was creating. And by, I think, December 2020, it had reached maybe 60,000 followers or something like that. But then, you know, with that comes a lot of pressure to actually now step up your game with your content, your thought process, because it's not just you now, it's people are waiting and relying on you. And it's been a really fun journey because it's allowed me to create content that actually is complete, like opposite to what I do at Shareable, as in like content wise, but I'm still actually utilizing my skills as a social media agency owner and actually putting content out there. So now I think it's like nearly 140,000, which is kind of like mind blowing. But yeah, it's just really people engaging with the content, and you know, it's actually now a community of people. That's what I like to call it. It's just a community of thousands of people around the world that relate to this type of content that's being shared. And I think that's why it's kind of taken a life of its own, is because it's relatable to the audience. And you know, now we're on TikTok and kind of sharing stuff on there, and TikTok I think now has 70,000 on there, and it's completely different to Instagram. It's more short form video content that's again empowering, but it's really just about the social media. I would say it's all really experimental. It's about you testing out your skills, you seeing what works, seeing what people are interacting with, and listening to their feedback, you know, because I would do a lot of things on stories that would say, hey, what do you want to see? What do you want me to write about? What are you thinking about at the moment? So it's really creating that community feel that I think drives engagement and drives followers and all that.
Would you say there are any light bulb moments through your experience of that profile that you have learned? Because I mean, you got a huge amount of experience already, but was there anything that you particularly took away from that experience of seeing such growth and engagement?
Yeah, I think Carousel's a game changer. It's honestly a game changer because obviously, you know, you can have up to 10 different slides, And that gives people 10 different chances to actually like your content. Whereas, you know, if you did a static image or you did a video that was short, you technically only have one chance. And I think if you look on the platform, literally, I think 99% of content is a carousel, because it's people are actually really liking that kind of digestible content. But also I've kind of coined this rule now. It's kind of making sure that your content is shareable, relatable and valuable. And I have to hit at least one of those on every single post that I do, because that's then I know, okay, it's actually going to generate that kind of shares, which is because, yeah, shares is what grows the platform. You know, the more people share it, the more people are going to see your content and it's going to increase the reach. So it's just making sure that it's relatable and it's valuable and it is shareable. And lastly, as well, is actually when you create your own original content, you become a content hub for other people. So other people will actually screenshot your work and share it on their platforms. And like the content on Vibes is being shared by like Feminist, which has got 6 million followers, and another platform called Impact, which has got 2 million followers. So do you know what I mean? Like, it's when you create your own original content, people then are going to start sharing it, because they don't want to create content. They actually just want to user generated content. So that's been a game changer for me. If you can create your own content, you actually will then become a content hub for these massive platforms.
So that's really interesting. You use that those three terms there: shareable, likable, and what was the third one you just mentioned?
Shareable, relatable, and valuable.
Relatable.
Those three.
Or you just
relatable, shareable, and valuable. If you can think,
sorry, my connection is slightly dodgy here, but so we slightly miss each other. But shareable, give us an example of a post that is shareable versus one that's not.
So I would say, 5 things you didn't know about Jesus is super shareable, because people will be like, oh, I didn't know that. Maybe my friends didn't know that either. Okay, I'm going to share that on my story. Whereas, just a plain Bible verse, it's shareable, but it's not as shareable as putting something there that's educational, that people, are going to want to share because they look smart with their friends, or it makes them feel some type of way. Whereas with the Bible verse, you could do something like 5 Bible verses on love, and then you've got 5 there in the carousel. Then you've turned that just one static image into something that's actually quite shareable as well. I think it's back now. I'm not sure. It was frozen.
Brilliant. Sorry, I think I'm having problems with my connection here. Okay, and does that apply on TikTok as well? In terms of shareable, how it's probably not the same. It's not slightly the same. Does shareable, likable, and valuable, does that slightly not translate to TikTok, or does it?
I think that, what I like to say is that I try to make sure that I'm hitting at least one of those, and then I'm going to be, onto a winner. So on TikTok, you could now actually go for, right, I'm going to create content that's actually filled with value. It's really valuable, or it's really relatable to the people that I'm trying to communicate with. So, for example, on TikTok, shares is actually very important. So if people are sharing it and saving it to their phone, that's going to obviously trigger off the TikTok algorithm to let them know that, hey, this content's doing well, boost it to more people. So shares is actually still really important, but it's done in a different way compared to Instagram, but it is still a really important metric.
We've got a couple of questions coming in, Emma. What's your favorite low-cost social media post scheduling app? Okay, so I use Planoly. However, I've actually started to just directly schedule things into Twitter and into Facebook. They both have their own scheduler, which is perfect. So I technically only have to use Planoly for Instagram. But you can actually now schedule Instagram posts on Facebook as well, and that's all free. So I would definitely say check out your Creator Studio on Facebook and then your Creator Suite on Twitter. Fabulous. Then we have another question. Just opening up my screen here. Someone also says, I love Vibes of Black Girl. I had no idea it was your platform. Incredible work. Someone says, what's your go-to website for social media trends?
Okay, so there is a really good website. I think it's Ask the Audience. So you can actually put down your niche or a word, and it will pop up with every single question that people are Googling that is related to your niche. And then if you go and answer the question on your social platforms, you're actually giving people value and answering their questions that people want to ask, that people want to know. So with a lot of some of the content for Vibes, I will go on that website and see what people are asking about. So, some people might say, why, what is 4C hair, or, what is this? And then I'll try and kind of create content around it and put it on the platform, because that is the questions that are most being asked by people within that kind of niche. And also Pinterest, that's one of my favorite places to get inspiration, and just type in my word, and then I see loads of different amazing content on there. I think Pinterest is definitely slept on a lot, but it's an amazing, incredible platform for inspiration.
So good, Emma. We're coming into land the next few minutes, but I'd love to know, as you think about 2022, you're juggling a lot of accounts, you're managing various profiles for large organizations. What trends are you aware of that are sort of emerging in 2022 that you're going to be navigating and thinking about?
Yeah, it's definitely shifting a lot on social media from, hey, this is my service, buy my service, to more kind of focusing on brand awareness. People are actually understanding now that social media isn't a sales thing. It's actually more about brand awareness. And the more that you tell people about your story, who you are, and you give value, the more then people are going to be inclined to, invest in your service, or, come to your church, or, things like that. So really trying to be as authentic, your true self on these platforms, and kind of put sales to the back burner if you can. The next one is obviously, companies are actually going to focus a lot on hiring social media managers within their team, as a lot of organizations still don't have those type of people within their team. So that's going to be huge. I don't know if you've seen it now as well, that, organizations are now actually becoming single individuals on social media platforms. So the other day, I think McDonald's was put out a tweet, and all the other organizations, Burger King, KFC, were all replying to the tweet as individual people. So these platforms are actually going to be quite humanized now. I don't know if you've seen on TikTok, you can scroll through Ryanair. It's one person that runs that Ryanair TikTok account. I think they have nearly 2 million followers now. And it's kind of that one person. So you're relating to Ryanair through that one individual. And Duolingo, another one you can check out on TikTok as well, millions of followers. It's one person that runs the account. So it creates that familiarity with the brand, and they're not selling their product. And Duolingo has kind of skyrocketed in sales because of their TikTok use alone, and just how they communicate with their audience. And I know Disney has just put out a post that they are looking for one person to run their TikTok account and to be the face of Disney. So a lot of individuals now are going to be the faces of these brands, which is going to be very exciting to see, because it's very strange. We're entering new territory when it comes to that. So if you can think about it for your own organization, to start showing your face a little bit more, so you can create that familiarity between your audience and yourself, because you create that trust between them as well, when they start seeing faces and they feel like they're speaking to the person behind the charity or the church or the brand.
So great.
I've got some notes here, I think, as well. Oh, sorry. After you.
Sorry, Emma. There's no. Go ahead. We've got a couple of more minutes, but if you had some more stuff there, love to hear it.
Yeah, I think as well, things like, we're going to definitely see a shift in the influencer space. I definitely feel like brands are going to be looking to be partnering more with communities, rather than that kind of glitzy glamour type of influencers. So if you really do need to be focusing in 2020 on building a solid community of people who are going to, support you. They're going to engage with you because you're constantly engaging with them back, replying to your DMs, replying to your comments, asking your audience questions is a great way across all these platforms to build a strong community.
Emma, we have a question from Taku, who we know. Hi, Taku. She's amazing. Emma, she says, how do you strike the balance between life online and in the real world, inverted commas, with social media being your job?
I wish I actually had a nice answer for that. I really don't. It's definitely tiring, and I would say that, you know, it's honestly just by the grace of God and the strength that he's given me to be able to do it, because you can never really get away from social media because it is 24/7. So I think a lot of kind of boundary setting for yourself is very important, and also managing your time with, you know, your clients or your projects. You know, set some time aside, say, right, this is what I'm going to spend 4 hours on content creation, and then I'm going to stop for an hour. It's taken me 2 years to do that. But yeah, it's really about striking that balance with yourself. And to be honest, I wouldn't even say, like, in my own personal life, that I'm a huge fan of social media, but I love it for business, and I love it for building brands, because there's so much kind of potential and purpose there to kind of take whatever it is you're doing to the next level.
Emma Sijuwade, it's so good to have you with us. Thank you for giving us your time. Thanks for taking some time out in your Saturday to be with us. God bless you. We're looking forward to connecting with you again. But thank you for everything, Emma.
Thank you so much. Take care.